Well, I truly believe that madness is the most restrained word to describe everything that's happening right now here in Brussels, while the entire world's press is writing about how in Ukraine a war mafia, a corrupt state power system was in operation, and meanwhile the President of the European Commission, Mrs. von der Leyen, now wants to send another 100 billion euros to Ukraine from the European people's money. This is simply madness. One would think that in a normal situation payments would be stopped immediately and an instant financial audit demanded. I believe that's exactly what should be done. Demand an immediate financial audit and stop all payments. For a war mafia, for a corrupt regime, we must stop these payments. The money of European people must no longer be sent into such a war mafia.
Good morning. Good morning to you.
The European Parliament, at the last minute, the Patriots pulled off the table to debate the corruption in Ukraine. Are you now trying to bring up this issue?
Well, I truly believe that madness is the most restrained word to describe everything that's happening right now here in Brussels, while the entire world's press is writing about how in Ukraine a war mafia, a corrupt state power system was in operation, and meanwhile the President of the European Commission, Mrs. von der Leyen, now wants to send another 100 billion euros to Ukraine from the European people's money. This is simply madness. One would think that in a normal situation payments would be stopped immediately and an instant financial audit demanded. I believe that's exactly what should be done. Demand an immediate financial audit and stop all payments. For a war mafia, for a corrupt regime, we must stop these payments. The money of European people must no longer be sent into such a war mafia. So naturally, I will bring up this question. And that speaks volumes about the state of Brussels democracy, that in such a serious matter the European Parliament rejects even discussing it.
In relation to this issue, the United States...
Is it true? And what about the negotiating in Budapest?
Yeah, what I know about this, based on what I heard at the meeting between President Trump and Prime Minister Orban just recently in D.C., is that the American president is still absolutely committed to bringing forward his peace efforts. He is absolutely committed to bringing about peace within Ukraine, and we Hungarians are absolutely committed to lending our full support to his plans and efforts. I don't know about the exact 28 points or how many there are. I have no idea whatsoever about that. What I do know is that the Americans are still actively working on bringing peace back to the central part of Europe, and then it comes to Budapest. What I understood from both American and Russian counterparts is they're trying to prepare a summit that yields an outcome, an agreement that can restore peace to Central Europe. And there's one thing about which there's no question, the venue. So we are ready to host the summit whenever the participants are ready.
How do you think the recent corruption scandal in Ukraine will impact the European Union's financial support for the country?
Normally, it should, yes. That is precisely how it should be. So if Brussels and the leadership operating here within Brussels were functioning in a normal manner, then they absolutely should have immediately ceased all payments directed towards Ukraine. And furthermore, they should have promptly demanded a comprehensive financial clearance without any further delay. We absolutely must understand precisely how the funds contributed by European taxpayers were utilized in Ukraine. All global media reports on the workings of this corrupt war mafia, and I must tell you, this is the mildest term I'll use now. It's crazy that the EU Commission President sends a letter to member states to give another 100 billion euros to Ukraine. So Come on, I mean, are we crazy? So there's a war mafia, a corrupt system working in Ukraine, and the European Commission president doesn't even mention it in her letter. And instead of stopping the payments and demanding for immediate financial clearance, she wants to send another 100 billion to Ukraine. I mean, come on, that is insane. This is a scandal in Paitamba.
Minister, what does it mean from the perspective of war preparations and centralization that the European Commission intends to implement a 48-hour emergency mechanism regarding the movement of military convoys? This means military convoys could move through member states without member states needing to grant specific authorization for this.
There's a war psychosis in Brussels. It's absolutely clear that Russians and Western European politicians are working to prolong the war. This is astonishing. It's very dangerous. Every single measure like this that involves more weapon shipments, more money transfers, that facilitates weapon shipments, all of them are pro-war proposals. They are all very dangerous. We still believe that the European Union has only one thing to do, and that is to support American peace efforts immediately and unconditionally. Sorry, sir, I kept you waiting.
Some of your colleagues and other ministers, they have argued that the corruption scandal in Ukraine shows that Ukraine is taking the corruption seriously, otherwise it wouldn't have been exposed. What are your thoughts on that?
I try to be nice to my colleagues, so if we are in Europe, want to take corruption seriously, then we have to stop the payments and we have to demand an immediate financial clearance. Because what we know is that a corruption system has been operational in Ukraine on the highest state level, where the money of the European taxpayers has been sent to. So if we also want to create the perception that we take corruption seriously, then the President of the European Commission should not send such a letter, or should not have sent such a letter to the member states, as she did.
Minister Soru, I'll get this.
Oh yes, please hold on a moment.
For Reuters.
What?
For Reuters, the US sanctions on Lukoil come into effect tomorrow, and Hungary's promised exceptions have still not been published on the Treasury website. What does this mean for Hungary and for your government?
We had a clear agreement regarding the meeting in DC. I mean, an agreement between the President and the Prime Minister, and the technical preparation for the implementation of this agreement has been progressing. So you can absolutely be sure that we can continue to ensure the safe supplies for Hungary in an unchanged form.
But do you have a timeline for that? When?
Yeah.
Minister, are you already, Czech radio, are you already in touch with the incoming Czech government of Andrej Babiš seeking their support to halt funding for Ukraine?
Well, first of all, my Prime Minister and the former and upcoming Prime Minister of the Czech Republic have been in constant contact. They are friends, they are allies. They are both funders of the Patriots for Europe, so it's quite natural that there is a continuous contact existing between them. Therefore, they communicate with each other on a regular basis, just as we also maintain communication at various levels between Fidesz and ANO and our coalition partners, of course. I personally extended my congratulations to the new speaker. I myself congratulated some of the new members of parliament, and actually we don't have to ask for support for our position here, because we understand that the upcoming Czech government is going to represent Czech national interest in a very determined way. And as far as I remember, those times when Prime Minister Babiš and Prime Minister Orbán were simultaneously in office, they have cooperated pretty well. And the Hungarian and the Czech national interests have fallen very close to each other on those most important dilemmas ahead of Europe. So I'm sure there will be great cooperation between PM Babiš, PM Orbán, and PM Fico in the European Council. Dimensionally, that's a brand new situation. 3 strong sovereignist, patriotic Central European leaders. That's a different story than the current one.
Minister, may I ask you a question concerning Russia, please? Yes.
The senior official stated, the High Representative said that time is not on Russia's side. Do you believe
time truly isn't favoring Russia? We observe they're somewhat relaxed, and the American administration isn't rushing to seize the moment there. But do you think time is on Ukraine's side?
My observation is that the establishment in Brussels, including the High Representative, has been consistently living under illusions. They are living under illusions, especially when it comes to the war in Ukraine. The war has been going on for almost 4 years now, and Russia has been occupying more and more Ukrainian territories. So the issue is not that Ukraine would occupy Russia or would push back Russia, but Russia is occupying more and more territories in Ukraine. Furthermore, the imposed sanctions have not successfully pushed the Russian economy to its knees. Therefore, I believe that asserting that time is truly on the side of Ukraine is merely an illusion. It is in fact a complete illusion. Sorry, yes.
President Trump also says that success is not always obvious, and the gain is very modest, he said.
Yes, but what I'm saying isn't in direct collision, or it's not entirely 180 degrees different from what I've just stated. What I actually said was that time is simply not on the side of Ukraine. It is in fact an illusion to claim that time is currently favoring Ukraine. This is precisely what I conveyed. We can consider Russia's forward progress moderate or not, but what I understand is that Russia is progressing and it's not Ukraine progressing, and that's the problem. That's the problem with the illusion of the establishment here in Brussels.